I survived gunfire in a country that doesn't even admit I was there. Then I got thrown face first onto the floor of an American airport. The enemy overseas never saw my face, but a cop in my own country looked me dead in the eyes and decided I didn't belong. And yeah, that happened. It was a Sunday evening at Hartsfield-Jackson, humid and heavy, the kind of southern heat that sticks to you even inside the terminal. Families were dragging roller bags across shiny tile, business travelers glued to their phones, overhead announcements echoing under that huge glass ceiling like white noise. You stop hearing after a while. I hadn't slept in over 40 hours. Senior Chief Darnell O, a Naval Special Warfare 16 years in. And 3 days earlier, I had been emergency extracted from a place I'm not allowed to name. The mission won't ever be public. The scars are. My right hand was wrapped in gauze, still seeping a little through the bandage. I had stitches above my left eyebrow. My shoulders felt like concrete, but my uniform was pressed sharp. Dress blues, ribbons aligned, trident pinned straight. When you wear that uniform, you wear it right. Under my arm was a sealed Department of Defense dossier, classified, and over my shoulder a duffel with everything I needed to get to Norfolk for debrief. I wasn't looking for attention. I wasn't trying to make a statement. I was just trying to get home. I remember walking through that crowd, thinking how strange it felt to be back in the civilian world so fast. 1 minute you're coordinating extraction under live fire. Next minute you're standing in line next to someone arguing about carry-on baggage fees. You know what I mean. The brain doesn't switch gears that quickly. I was exhausted but steady. Calm is a habit when you've done this long enough. And then I saw him step into my path. Officer Craig Bellingham. I didn't know his name yet, but I knew the look. Mid-40s airport police uniform, crisp badge-polished posture, stiff like he was always on display. He blocked me without touching me at first. Just planted himself 2 feet away and said, "Hold up." Not loud, not dramatic, just that tone that tells you this isn't optional. I stopped immediately. "Yes, sir. I've spent my whole career respecting authority structures. That doesn't go away just because you're tired." "Where are you coming from?" he asked. "Military travel," I said calmly. "Connecting flight to Norfolk." His eyes scanned me slow from the ribbons down to the bandaged hand. He lingered there. "You look like you've been in something." "Overseas assignment," I replied. "I can provide military ID and orders." I reached slowly into my jacket, careful, deliberate, handed him my ID and travel documents. He turned the card over once, then again, looked at my face, looked back at the card. "These could be fake," he said. "Now I've been in interrogations before, real ones. Rooms with no windows, men who don't smile. This wasn't that, but something shifted in the air." "They're legitimate, sir," I answered. "You can verify through command." He didn't like that. "I'll decide what I verify." His partner stood a step behind him, quiet, watching. Travelers around us slowed down, sensing tension without knowing why. "You traveling alone?" "Yes, sir. What's in the bag?" "Personal gear." He nodded toward the sealed dossier tucked under my arm. "And that classified material. I'm not authorized to release it, if needed." The word supervisor hit him, if needed. The word supervisor hit him like an insult. He leaned in until I could smell coffee on his breath. "You don't get to tell me how this works." I kept my voice level. "I'm not resisting. I'm complying within my authority." I remember thinking, if I just stay calm, this will pass. It always passes if you stay calm. That's what we're taught. Then he grabbed my right wrist, the injured one. Hard. Pain shot up my arm so fast it almost blurred my vision. The gauze twisted under his grip and I felt the wound reopen. "Drop it!" he barked, gesturing at the dossier. "Sir, this document is classified. I am not authorized to release it." I never got to finish the next sentence. His palm drove into my upper back and he shoved me forward with full force. My knees hit the tile first, then my shoulder, then my face. I heard the sound echo across the concourse. The sealed dossier slipped from under my arm and skidded across the floor, spinning, until it stopped near a row of seats, the classification stamp visible to anyone who cared to look. People gasped. A kid started crying. I tasted blood. He dropped a knee between my shoulder blades and forced my arms behind me. The torn bandage unraveled completely. Blood smeared across white tile. "Stop resisting," he shouted. I wasn't moving. I couldn't move. "I am not resisting," I said, cheek pressed against the floor. "You are on camera." His body cam red light blinked steadily. He leaned down close enough for his mic to catch every word. "Guys like you always have a story," he muttered. "Uniform doesn't make you somebody." I've heard gunfire crack inches from my head. I've heard radios go silent when they shouldn't. But that sentence, that one stuck deeper than I expected. Because in that moment, it wasn't about security. It wasn't about procedure. It was about who he thought I was, or who he thought I wasn't. Then another voice cut through. Get him up, now. Sergeant Vanessa Traz came around the corner, fast drawn by the commotion. 18 years on the force, eyes sharp, taking in the scene in one sweep. A black man in navy dress blues, face down, blood-visible cuffs on classified material lying 10 feet away in public view. She stopped mid-stride. Do you have any idea what you've just done? She asked him low but controlled. He said I was non-compliant. She didn't even look at him. She picked up my military ID, read it, and her expression changed. Remove the cuffs. This time it wasn't a suggestion. When the metal clicked open, it sounded louder than it should have. I stood up slowly. Blood ran down my hand. My eyebrow had reopened. My uniform was smeared dark at the shoulder. But I stood straight. Habit, discipline, control. Senior Chief, she said quietly. I'm calling medical and my commanding officer. I nodded. Thank you, Sergeant. That was it. No speech, no anger, just control. Within minutes, the airport police chief was there. He saw the classification stamp on the dossier and his face tightened. A call was made to the Department of Defense liaison. Less than 20 minutes later, 2 federal agents walked in through a secured corridor, NCIS and Defense Intelligence Agency. They secured the dossier, first logged it, sealed it. Then they requested the body cam footage. We sat in a closed room while it played. No commentary, just the stop. The refusal to verify, the grab, the twist, the shove, the impact, the blood, and the words, uniform doesn't make you somebody. After it ended, the room stayed silent. One of the agents stepped outside and made a call. We have a compromised asset situation and an assault on an active duty Special Operations Service member. Initiate federal jurisdiction. Just like that, it stopped being an airport issue. It became a national one. By the time I landed in Norfolk the next morning, the video was everywhere. Someone in the terminal had recorded the whole thing from a civilian angle. The shove, the knee, the blood, the dossier sliding across the floor. Millions of views overnight. The Pentagon released a statement. Brief, direct, unusually fast. An active duty senior chief returning from a classified operation had been subjected to racially motivated assault. The Department of Justice Civil Rights Division opened an investigation. Homeland Security launched a parallel review. This wasn't internal affairs anymore. This was federal. They pulled his record. 31 prior complaints over 16 years, excessive questioning, aggressive detentions, patterns. Cases that had been cleared quietly were reopened. 14 more people stepped forward in 2 weeks. Different stories, same theme. He didn't believe I belonged. That line kept repeating in different forms. Federal prosecutors outlined possible charges: violation of civil rights under color of law, assault resulting in bodily injury, interference with the duties of a federal service member, decades in prison potentially. Me, I went back to limited duty. I gave one statement to investigators, clear, chronological, every detail. I was trained to remember under pressure, I told them. I didn't want sympathy. I wanted accountability. That's it. I didn't survive hostile territory to get dragged across a civilian terminal floor because someone decided I didn't fit the picture in his head. Here's the part people keep arguing about. Some say the system worked because he was suspended within 48 hours. Some say it only worked because cameras were rolling. Some say he was just doing his job. Others say the job was never the point. I can tell you what I know. I was calm, I complied, I identified myself, and I was still face down on tile with a knee in my back while blood spread under my hand. I've replayed that moment more times than I can count. Not the shove, not the pain, the sentence, uniform doesn't make you somebody. I've worn that uniform in places where people would kill to tear it off me. I've worn it burying friends. I've worn it watching sunrises in countries most Americans will never see. And I wore it that night just trying to get home. His career unraveled in less than a week. Federal courtroom, oversight, monitoring of the department, policies rewritten, supervisors reassigned. My career continued. But something in me shifted, because it hits different when the threat isn't across the ocean. It's across from you in the same flag patch. So here's what I want to ask you. Do you think this was justice or damage control? Do you believe accountability would have happened without those cameras? Have you ever witnessed authority cross a line while everyone else just watched? I'm not asking for outrage. I'm asking for honesty. Drop your thoughts below. Tell me where you stand. Tell me what you've seen. Because conversations like this don't end in courtrooms. They start with people willing to speak up. And I promise you, I'm listening.